Ric Browde, Wings of Rescue CEO, author, record producer, songwriter. Thank you very much for being today on the Millennial Way Show.
Thank you for having me.
Ric, let's start by understanding a little bit about your background and why an author, a record producer, a songwriter end up, saving pets, and not only pets, but a lot of pets.
Well, I was very fortunate to have a successful rock and roll career and selling multi-million records. And I woke up one day with my wife and realized that I'd never done anything good to make the world better. And, life is all about leaving a monument to let people know you were there in future generations. And the world didn't need another glam or heavy metal rock and roll record. But I had learned that pets were dying in shelters, so I thought I would take what talents I had to try and ameliorate that situation. And I went to a shelter in Los Angeles County that was killing over 100 dogs every day, and started to bring the principles that I had used for rock and roll. And in terms of marketing, changing the whole idea of shelter pets, instead of everybody going, "This dog dies at midnight if you don't come and get him," saying, well, this dog's going to improve your life. And we brought photographers from Vogue. We were the first shelter to use Facebook and YouTube. We were doing these videos. And we went to where they only killed 9 dogs the last month I was there, and they were all for irremediable suffering. But you wouldn't sell a used car saying the muffler's bad, the engine's going to go any moment, things like this. And that's the way they were selling dogs. And so we just needed to change the whole attitude of marketing, that this dog is going to make your life better. And that led to the people who founded Wings of Rescue approaching me to see if they would help them. And then eventually in 2017, I became the head of Wings of Rescue. And it's been taking up my entire life pretty much since then, of 80-hour weeks and lots of flights. And it's very rewarding, and at the same time very saddening, because like all charities, your goal is to go out of business because there'll be no need for you. And unfortunately, the need just seems to get greater every day, and that's pretty crushing.
Wow, that's fascinating. Ric, we have seen all these crazy disturbing images in these last days, what is happening with these fires in Los Angeles, in different spots of LA. How has Wings of Rescue adapted its operations to respond to the immediate needs of pets affected by these recent fires in Los Angeles?
Well, I'm not originally, but I lived in Los Angeles for 31 years up until 2 years ago. So this is really hitting home for me, because so many of my friends and neighbors have lost everything, not just their homes, but all their possessions. And it's just devastating. Wings of Rescue has responded to pretty much every disaster in America since 2017, in this hemisphere, I should say, be it volcanoes in St. Vincent, earthquakes in Haiti, every hurricane that's just hit along the eastern seaboard and the Gulf Coast, wildfires in Canada last year, and now in California, tornadoes, floods. If there's a disaster, we're going to be there. And so it wasn't changing our methods so much. In fact, in a little bit, this was easier, because in most disaster areas, we come in bringing humanitarian and veterinary supplies. We've not only rescued 76,000 pets, but we've delivered almost 900,000 pounds of humanitarian aid. So we didn't have to do the humanitarian aid because aid was already there. That was the good news and facilitated things. But we're a very nimble organization, and within 2 days of the severity of the fire, we were in the air. with our first flight. It was mostly we could have been there earlier, but we needed to get all the pets' health certificates before they travel, which requires bringing in veterinarians to do that. And so we have already flown a flight to Utah carrying, I think, 86 pets or something like that. And then we did a flight to the following day to Portland, Oregon, and then on to Seattle that carried another 78. Tomorrow we're taking, I'm not even sure yet how many pets up to Utah. On Sunday, we're going to be flying about 300 pets to out east. And then we're going to be flying on Friday. We're going to be using a small plane to fly 14 large dogs out, again to Utah. But we've got probably another 8 flights to do that we know of. We're going to empty out the shelters because it's very vital to do that, because there's so many pets that are going to come into the shelter, hopefully to be reunited with their families, but they're going to need space. And what often happens in these situations is they euthanize the pets that have been strays and turned in prior to the storm. And they'll euthanize them to make room for the tidal wave of pets that will be coming in. And so all the pets that we are actually transporting, none of them were in the fires themselves. They were all in the shelters, but we're saving their lives to open up the space for the others. So we don't want people going around, as some people want to do, saying that we're stealing people's pets and things like that. These are all pets that have been abandoned long ago.
Oh, so that's very important to let our audience know. So these pets are rescued from shelters that were actually protected, and that's the concentration. I would like to know, Ric, what unique challenges do wildfires present compared to other disasters that you just mentioned, like hurricanes or floods, when it comes to rescuing, and relocating pets?
Well, the relocation's the same on everything. It's just finding partners that have the ability to receive. But the unique things about wildfires as opposed to hurricanes is the smoke is intense. There's some breathing problems periodically in situations like that. We were very fortunate to have the winds turn just as we were loading the planes, so that the smoke wasn't blowing right into us. It changes our flight patterns tremendously. We had to sort of go pick our way through Los Angeles traffic and make sure that we didn't get in the way of the planes that were doing drops of chemicals to retard the flames. But virtually they're all the same, and what's so gratifying is, even in this divided world that we live in especially in the United States, there were Republicans and Democrats side by side without any animosity. Everybody, it reduced us all to our basic instincts of being nice people instead of contentious bastards that we often are.
You mentioned, I didn't want to go there, but you open a little window. So we have heard and read so many, theories about how these fires started, who started. What's your take on this?
My take as a Los Angeles resident for all these years is, the last 2 years, Los Angeles had unprecedented amount of rain, just huge amounts of rain. And when I would go back home, and I still consider Los Angeles home, I saw last March and through May, the greenest Los Angeles I have ever seen in all my years. But then there hasn't been any rain ever since. And it just takes one spark. Everything was dry as a tinder, and it was just a tinderbox waiting to happen. Unfortunately, government didn't seize on the opportunity. They cut the budgets of the people that were doing the brush inspections and clearance. Pacific Gas and Electric was faulted for many of the fires in the past, and it seems like some of their transformers may have been involved again. We just need to update the infrastructure of Los Angeles, if this city can ever, I don't know if it will ever be able to rebuild itself to its grandeur that it once had, but the amount of work that could have been done to avert these fires definitely wasn't done. And there's so many people who are suffering for the consequences of the failure of leadership.
I don't know if I can ask you this, but what will be your take on the role of Governor Newsom and the mayor of LA responding to this disaster?
I think they've done a decent job, quite frankly. I think the problems were in a lack of foresight. I mean, if they had decided to cut other things out of the budget to keep this part of the budget and brush clearance and everything, I mean, you don't want to go to the stupidity of Donald Trump's rake the forests, but had they gone more into brush clearance, had perhaps government, and it may have taken the courts as well, to force Pacific Gas and Electric, PG&E, to clean up its transformers and stop having them being the risks that they are. I saw one video where it looked like something came clearly from an electrical pole that started the fire. I think those things could have been done. We need to bury the power lines in Los Angeles. That's number one, I think. It's hard to put the blame in any one place. Maybe the lack of federal funding could be in there. There's so many things that are above my pay grade. But as a Los Angeles resident, all I know is that it was a failure somewhere, that probably the fires would have happened, but they did not need to be this severe.
Ric, I really appreciate your answer. Coming back to the pets, to the animals, do you have an estimated till today of how many dogs or how many cats, or if there are any other kind of animals or pets that your organization has been working on it, or that maybe there's other kind of animals that they need help, and what people can do? Well,
the most important thing that people can do, and this goes to anybody across the country, is so many pets don't have ID tags or microchips and things like that can quickly reunite them with their families. And if they do have microchips and you move around, you have to keep your address current with the microchip owner, the company that provides the microchip information to everybody. That's the number one thing that people can do. So, what I really hate is so many people are like shaming the people that got separated from their pets, saying, I would never leave my pet, but they've never been in a disaster before. We need more compassion. When a disaster strikes, you may be out at work and you thought your house was clear, and like a spark travels in these Santa Ana winds like 2-3 miles. Your house is on fire. The firemen won't let you get in to get your pets, and your pet's gone. Or in cases of hurricanes and tornadoes, your house blows up literally apart, and the pets go one way, you go the other, and then there's no way of reuniting people with their pets, because their pets may have gone to the next county and you didn't think to go to the next county's shelter to go find the pets. So people need to get pet identification. That's number one. But number two, dealing with the hazard that's there right now. What people can do is bring, obviously donating money to the charities that are actually on the ground helping. That's wonderful. Wings of Rescue appreciates any donations, but there are so many things that you can do, each individual. I'm 70 years old and I'm going and putting my body on the line, but you don't even have to do that. But you can't just be a keyboard warrior and just type thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. Well, that's just passing the buck on to Jesus. And Jesus isn't working these days. He's got busier things to do. So we all have the capacity to make the world a little bit better if we just get off our butts and do it. So you can get off your butt and do it by going to your local shelter, donating some blankets or newspapers or towels. They need those. You could just walk a dog, pet a cat, socialize them. There's so many things that you can do without really ruining your life, but it just means you have to give a little of yourself to do it. And that's what's for the pets, but you can do the same thing goes for human beings. We can all donate some food. We can donate some extra possessions. We live in a consumer society. Maybe I don't need 5 sweaters. Maybe I don't need 10 pairs of Puma shoes or Air Jordans or whatever. Donate stuff, because these people who've lost their homes, they've lost their pets who have lost their families, they're all in need. And I'm sitting here, in a pretty nice place, and I'm feeling guilty right now because even though I've been doing all these flights and working 20-hour days, I just haven't felt like I've done enough to make the world better.
Wow. Very, very sincere and powerful message. Ric Browde, CEO of Wings of Rescue, author, record producer, songwriter. It has been an honor to have you today on the Millennial Way Show. We really, really appreciate it. I don't know if you have any last comment or message that you would like to share with our audience.
Well, it really boils down to, yes, please donate to www.wingsofrescue.org/donate. But just to remember, compassion is a really good thing to be practicing right now. And we all have the capacity to make the world better. And we only get one lifetime to do it. So get off your butts and do something to make the world better. All of us have that. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Ric, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.